The Last Lesson by Alphonse Daudet. The story is set in the days of the Franco-Prussian War, 1870-1871. The French districts of Alsace and Lorraine have passed into Prussian hands. Monsieur Hamel is an old teacher of French in the village of Alsace. Monsieur Hamel is a strict and sincere teacher. Franz is a young student who regrets his habit of ignoring his studies on the last day of Monsieur Hamel in the village school. The chapter deals with the themes of patriotism and linguistic chauvinism. Patriotism is the feeling of love, devotion, and sense of attachment to a homeland or one's nation. Linguistic chauvinism is the irrational belief that language of your own country is superior and the others are inferior. Reluctance of Franz to go to school. Franz was reluctant to go to school for three reasons. He was late for school, he had not prepared his lesson on participles, and it was a beautiful morning. He was tempted to spend the day away from the school to watch the drilling of the Prussian soldiers and listen to the chirping of birds. For not preparing participles, he might be scolded by Monsieur Hamel, his French teacher. Franz noticed a big crowd in front of the town hall bulletin board. Generally, the people of Alsace got bad news, like the lost battles, the draft, etc., from the bulletin board. Franz had no idea that the order from Berlin was put up there on the bulletin board that day. Waschter, the blacksmith, who knew about the order from Berlin, told Franz that he had plenty of time to reach his school. Franz thought he was making fun of him. Franz thought he would enter his class by taking advantage of noise and commotion. But the class was unusually quiet. He had to go in before everybody. He was frightened of Monsieur Hamel and his ruler. He blushed as he was ashamed of being so late for school. Strangely, that day, Monsieur Hamel spoke with kindness to him. Franz saw three unusual things that day. Firstly, the school was unusually quiet. Secondly, Monsieur Hamel, the French teacher, was wearing a special attire which he wore only on special days. Thirdly, the village elders were sitting quietly on the last benches of the classroom and were carrying their books and primers. The presence of village elders surprised Franz the most. Monsieur Hamel told the class that it was their last French lesson. The order had come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. German teacher would replace him the next day. These words appeared as a thunderclap to Franz. He was shocked at the loss of his mother tongue. That day, Franz's feelings changed. After learning about the order from Berlin, Franz regretted not learning his lessons when he had time. His books became like old friends. He forgot that his teacher was cranky or eccentric. He felt sorry for Monsieur Hamel. Now he understood why the teacher was dressed in special clothes and the village elders were attending the school. It was to honor their language and their country and show respect to their old teacher. When Monsieur Hamel asked Franz to recite the rule of participles, French wasn't able to recite it. Instead of scolding Franz, Monsieur Hamel blamed the students, the parents, and himself for the lack of learning. The great trouble with Alsace was that its people postponed learning till the next day. The parents sent their kids to farms or mills. Monsieur Hamel used to send the students away if he wanted to go fishing. Monsieur Hamel called the French language as the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest, and the most logical. If the people of Alsace wanted to become free again from the Prussians, they had to preserve their language. French language was their key to come out of prison. The sentiments of the people during the last lesson were different from ordinary days. During the last lesson, it appeared to Franz that Monsieur Hamel was explaining everything with patience. He was an epitome of patience, kindness, and sincerity. Franz himself was paying attention to his studies. He studied with sincerity and understood everything that day. All of them, including the little kids and the village elders, were quiet, sincere, and sad. During the last lesson, when the pigeons cooed on the roof, Franz thought, will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? The thought is ironical and filled with sadness. Human beings impose their language upon others. A false belief that one's language is superior, linguistic chauvinism, is the root cause of this imposition. It's an irony that the wise humans resort to linguistic chauvinism. The birds and the beasts are free of this negative human tendency. Communicating in one's mother tongue is as natural as cooing is to the pigeons. Robbing one of his or her mother tongue is unwise, unnatural, and inhuman. Monsieur Hamel was sad at leaving the school after 40 years of faithful service. Everyone turned sad and solemn. Some people started crying. Monsieur Hamel stood up to speak, but he choked. He turned to the blackboard and wrote, Vive la France. Vive la France means long live France. These farewell words of Monsieur Hamel show hope that Alsace would be free again and the people there would be able to speak in their mother tongue, French. So, students, that's the end of the lesson. Always study chapters from NCERT books because that's the way in which you can get good marks. Stay healthy. Best wishes.